Settle in. This is Unintended Consequences, episode 21 for June 3rd, 2026. Today's profile, a policy that did the opposite of what its designers intended. In 1995, Dewayne Williams took a slice of pepperoni pizza from a group of children at a Redondo Beach restaurant. He received a sentence of 25 years to life under California's new three strikes statute. The law had been written to incapacitate repeat violent offenders after high-profile murders. Yet Williams's prior convictions were for robbery, not homicide or rape. Within a few years, the same statute produced a 50-to-life term for Leandro Andrade after he shoplifted 9 videotapes from 2 Kmart stores in Ontario, California. The modern three strikes movement began in Washington state in 1993 with Initiative 593. It was drafted after the murder of Diane Balasiats by a repeat offender on work release. California followed in 1994 with Proposition 184. That measure was placed on the ballot after the abduction and killing of 12-year-old Polly Klaas by Richard Allen Davis, who had an extensive prior record. Sponsors argued that a small number of habitual offenders committed a disproportionate share of serious crimes. They believed mandatory long sentences would both incapacitate those individuals and deter others. At the time, FBI data showed violent crime rates still near their early 1990s peak, and public fear was intense. Polls indicated overwhelming support for any measure labeled tough on crime. Legislators and voters therefore treated the policy as a straightforward application of selective incapacitation theory that criminologists had discussed since the 1970s. Washington's law took effect in December 1993. California's passed with 72% of the vote in November 1994 and applied retroactively to existing felony convictions. Prosecutors in both states gained wide discretion over which prior felonies counted as strikes. California's version defined a strike as any felony rather than only serious or violent ones. Early evaluations in 1995 and 1996 reported drops in felony filings for individuals already labeled two-strike defendants. Proponents cited those drops as evidence of deterrence. Skeptics at the time, including some district attorneys and the California Legislative Analyst's Office, warned that the broad definition of strikes would sweep in property and drug cases once offenders accumulated 3 felonies of any kind. By 2002, California's prison population had roughly doubled from its 1994 level, reaching more than 160,000 inmates. 3 strike sentences accounted for a substantial share of the growth. Because the law treated many non-violent felonies as third strikes, an estimated 65% of California 3 strikes prisoners were serving time for property, drug, or other non-violent offenses. The pizza case of Dewayne Williams and the videotape case of Leandro Andrade became national symbols. Andrade's sentence was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2003. The causal mechanism was mechanical. Once 2 prior strikes existed, any new felony, no matter how minor, triggered a sentence of 25 years to life with limited good time credits. This removed ordinary plea bargaining leverage for low-level cases and produced long sentences for conduct that previously drew county jail time or short prison terms. Second-order effects included sharply higher corrections budgets. Overcrowding triggered federal court intervention in 2009. Prison beds were diverted away from the very violent offenders the law had targeted. County prosecutors also adapted by filing more cases as felonies to create future strikes, further widening the net. By 2010, voter and legislative concern over costs and fairness produced Proposition 36. Voters approved it in November 2012 by a 69% margin. The measure narrowed third strike eligibility to serious or violent felonies and allowed resentencing for some inmates already serving life terms. Roughly 2,000 people received reduced sentences after the reform. Thousands more remained incarcerated under the original statute. The rollback itself generated new litigation over retroactivity and eligibility criteria. California's prison population later declined. The state still operates under federal population caps first imposed during the three strikes era. Broad mandatory sentencing rules interact with existing plea practices and charging discretion in ways that are difficult to predict from the statute's text alone. When a single additional conviction can multiply sentence length by an order of magnitude, even modest changes in what counts as a felony produce large shifts in incarceration volume. Modern risk assessment tools and diversion programs attempt to target the same goal of selective incapacitation with narrower eligibility criteria. The three strikes experience suggests those tools must be evaluated against actual filing and plea data rather than intended categories. How might today's proposals for automatic sentence enhancements for repeat offenses fare under similar real-world charging dynamics? That's unintended consequences for today. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with a friend who'd appreciate the story. Subscribe wherever you listen, and we'll be back tomorrow with another case. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Fascinating Frontiers a listen, the most fascinating news from space and science. You can explore the whole lineup at naranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.